Hello. Alright, so being that this week was Charles Darwin's birthday, I thought I'd post this video with a little formula that I've made for calculating the rate of evolution. Many of you might be wondering why I'm in a bee costume. So we'll get started. So the rate of evolution. Alright, so you're going to start with population of given species. This would work for, I feel that would be slightly more useful for bacteria and viruses, but I feel would be incredibly applicable in a variety of areas, many of which I'm completely unaware of. So let's start with, population of a species over the rate that mutations occur in that species. Say it's 1 in every 3,000, you'd be putting 3,000 there. So that's going to equal how many mutations occur per generation. Now, what mutations you're going to be looking at could change. You could be looking at base pair mutations, tons of different types of mutations. I'm going to just go with physical mutations, and being that there's no real way of telling how many of those mutations are going to be useful based on a given environment, or how many are going to be harmful, or how many are going to do nothing, I feel it's better just to sum up the total mutations that occurs, which would change. But it'd be good to have the rough number of how many mutations occur in order to compare it to other species to see what mutates faster, and in turn would be more suitable for an environment given long periods of time at a faster rate of mutation. So then you're going to have the time it takes a generation. So this is going to be how long a generation takes in seconds. And then you can divide that by how many seconds are in a year. You could use 100 years, 10 years, 50,000 years. You could use any number of years, really, depending on what species you're actually looking at. For viruses and stuff, I would think a year would be more than enough to get a fairly accurate piece of data, which is 3.1536 times 10 to the 7th seconds in a year. And that's going to give you, let's just call it T, which is basically how many generations occur in any given year. So now when you take both of these and put them together, you're going to have mutants per generation. Let's make generation red, just to highlight that that's canceling out here. Generation times generation, and that's going to equal mutants per year. And then by comparing the mutants per year of any given species, you could even document throughout the years based on estimated populations. You could estimate how much a species has evolved in very long periods of time. You could also use 100 years by multiplying this by 100, and then use the average population in each stage of that progression by taking up the entire population and dividing it by 100, the entire population that's occurred over the 100 years. So this would allow you to see and compare mutations. Now that this is, I feel, incredibly useful, especially when it comes to bacteria and viruses, being that those are probably the top contenders, and those are probably among the top players of the evolutionary race. We could also see what animals and what species are in the. We could also use it to help to see where populations are going, make estimates of what mutations occur that might help. I mean, we might be able to identify that out of so many mutations in a given population in a certain environment, there might be this many of them that are useful. There might be this many of them that give that species a specific advantage over the non-mutated version of that species. So viruses and stuff, we could use this formula to devise large colonies and cultures of bacteria and viruses, and we would be able to, by making a very high population, we'd be able to pretty much artificially create the evolutionary process. We'd be able to artificially accelerate the evolution of a given bacteria or a virus, which would allow us to see where it might be potentially going in the future. If the virus was going to do that naturally, we might be able to do it a little faster artificially, and then be able to create vaccines and stuff before very harmful viruses even strike. We could have cures for, the next plague before it even occurs naturally. So that's where I feel this could be incredibly useful. It could also not be incredibly useful, and I could be completely wrong, but I think it's worth taking a look at, and it's worth seeing where it could be implemented. So thank you for watching. Hope you dig it.